Ginkgo biloba is a phenomenal herb, and it's been talked about for a really long time and written about it. I mean, there's been numerous studies. Some have, said, oh no, it doesn't work, and others have said, yes, it does. But I think we can pretty much show that the evidence is saying, yeah, it does work. It's one of those ones they keep researching. They just keep looking at it more and more and more. Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello everyone, and welcome Christine from the Herbal Extract Company here in Australia, and we're back with Mentoring with Geraldine. We're going to talk about the longevity herb. So how are you? Are you feeling old or are you feeling young today?
Well, some days better than others, but no, but I always feel alive when I see ginkgo and talk about ginkgo. I just love this herb. It's got a great history.
Ginkgo biloba is a phenomenal herb, and it's been talked about for a really long time and written about it. And in your highlight, you called it the Yoda of plants. Do you want to tell us some more about it?
I had fun writing this one. Well, because, they both belong to an ancient and mysterious species and are revered for their wisdom and power.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a living fossil. I mean, it's essentially unchanged for 200 million years.
Wow.
Which is actually nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of superlatives when it comes to ginkgo. They're said to, the family originated with the dinosaurs and, when they were still roaming the earth.
Wow.
And it's the only species of the genus that survived. So it's a real survivor.
Wow.
It's an oddity. It's the only single known species without any relatives. It's quite amazing, that we still, when we look at it, it's a living fossil.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. I've recently been up to the centre of Australia where everything is fossilised. It's all hot and dry and so many fossils. And to know that there's this amazing living tree that does all of these things. I mean, you use the leaf, don't you, for the extract? Yes. And the leaf has a particular curious fan shape, and there it is all dry.
Yeah, we don't unfortunately have the whole leaf, but I have the monograph that I wrote recently, and you can sort of see the fan shape.
Yeah, the people who are listening via podcast will have to imagine the fan shape anyway, and those people that find us on YouTube can see it there. But it is what we call a doctrine of signatures. Do you want to explain what we mean by that doctrine of signatures in relation to the ginkgo?
Yes, and I love ginkgo as a great example of the doctrine of signatures. So, because it has these two fan-shaped leaves that have two hemispheres, as the name biloba suggests, ginkgo biloba, and they resemble the outline of the brain. Especially when you group them together, it actually becomes one big brain. And, along with how ginkgo has a long life, it's resistant in the environment and it's the oldest living species. So you can see why it's become a doctrine of a signature, why it's become one of the most famous doctrine of signatures. So what that is like a fancified notion, sort of a romantic notion, I guess, that's not supported by scientific evidence. However, there's no like they used to say that God had put his signature onto the plants so that we could see what they were used for.
Yep.
So, and a lot of people put, how they treated people. I mean, the carrots for the eyes, and I'm trying to think of all the
walnuts. Well, walnuts are a great one because they're full of all the good oils for the brain, and they look like a little brain. So
it does make sense a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But there's no scientific evidence for it, and we have to acknowledge that. However, there's no denying that it can be used to increase the quality of life, especially in the elderly.
Yes.
And, they say the doctrine at the very least can be used to assist in the materia medica, remembering the materia medica.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good way to remember. I mean, the ginkgo looks like a brain, and it is really, really good for the brain.
Yeah. I mean, there's been numerous studies. Some have, said, oh, no, it doesn't work. And others have said, yes, it does. But I think we can pretty much show that the evidence is saying, yeah, it does work. And it's one of those ones they keep researching. They just keep looking at it more and more and more.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess a lot of the research is looking at the blood flow. So it's a circulatory stimulant, and that's how it helps the brain in dementia and Alzheimer's disease, because it increases the blood flow, which is going to bring more nutrients. And as you get older, that you're losing that circulatory stimulation. So
that also means that there's some contraindications for use. So don't just go straight on to Ginkgo without checking with your practitioner.
Yes.
But it's got this, and when we're delivering those nutrients to the brain, again, as we regularly say, it's about lifestyle and foods and those sorts of things. But the Ginkgo itself, I mean, I've used it as well. It might be a psychological side to it, and that not just giving it to your dementia, but to your senior student year 12. They're struggling with what they've got to do and to get it all done and get everything handed in and stay awake. And so you're giving them withanias and all of those, but I'll often pop in a bit of Ginkgo there to help with that circulatory that help the circulatory system, to make sure that those herbs are going in and that they're getting that support they need coming up to exam time particularly. And the other thing, not only have we got nutrient delivery, that also means that we've got waste disposal, which is, what we need, because there's always waste, isn't there? It doesn't matter where in the body you've got waste. I put it in a number of my use yours. The Herbal Extract Ginkgo is what's in my cupboard now. And I make an aloe vera gel for skin. And I use a number of different herbs in there. And I do add the Ginkgo, not in the first acne one, but when I make an acne cream. So the first acne cream, I have a lot of bug killers in there. And then the next one gets the Ginkgo. So it goes on the surface of the skin to help repair. And it's really effective on that surface of the skin for the acne later on.
As a topical.
Yeah, as a topical. So not just taken internally, but topically, it's a great herb as well. So I mean, the thing with Ginkgo though, was it 170 compounds you've said there? That they know about.
Yeah, well, and it's the same with all the herbs really. Like the amount of constituents would be as long as this wall.
Yep.
But it's very difficult to find out every single one of them.
Yeah.
It is one of the most studied herbs, but a lot of the study has been done on, it's another one like St. Mary's thistle.
Yep.
Where it's been done on a standardized product, which is very different, sort of a full spectrum product there. So we don't standardize ours just because that's just not what we do.
Yep.
We make full spectrum where you get sort of a balance of all the constituents, because we don't know, and even though we don't know what exact chemical it is. I mean, sometimes, there's active chemicals, but even in the studies, the total extract has been found to be more active than any single isolated component. So it suggests there's synergism. We don't want to alter the chemistry of the plant as it grew in nature. But most of the studies have been done on standardized products.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the synergy of the herb is really important. And then when we mix it with our other herbs and we get that greater synergy again, it's because we get all the components. So having a 1-in-1 like yours is means that we've got everything in there. You've kept going with the percolation or the extraction until you've reached that 1-in-1, until you've really got the whole of the plant in there and they're getting the whole of the plant. Before we started recording, you did mention about the nut, which is completely different. But I just thought you wouldn't mind telling us that little story about when you were in Japan and the ginkgo nut just before we go.
Oh yeah, because I actually didn't realise until I went to Japan, which was quite a long time ago now, that there was an edible nut on ginkgo. And the Japanese, it's a delicacy. Right. And they fry it in a pan and it turns this beautiful jade green colour like the leaf.
Wow.
But there's an old saying that you shouldn't have more than 5, otherwise you can go a bit crazy. And from memory, there is some scientific explanation for that, like there's actual chemicals in it that affect your brain, like the leaf.
Like the leaf.
And I sat down to this most exquisite dish I think I've ever had in my life, which was a pine needle skewered with 2 ginkgo nuts. And that was the meal. And we just sort of ate it very slowly, and it was so elegant. And actually, it's a really delicious tasting nut as well. And I think you can buy them in Asian shops and supermarkets at certain times.
Right. That sounds amazing. It's always nice to hear these other little things that go with it, because I wouldn't have even thought about it. I mean, yes, I know the tree has a nut, but I thought, we only use the leaf in our herbs. So to know that no more than 5 is going to affect your brain, and that it's just lightly fried. Isn't that amazing? So
Japan has a great affinity with ginkgo. I mean, it was growing everywhere. I saw when I was there, and the nuts drop and make a terrible smell, actually.
Oh.
On the ground. There's the male and the female. One of the great stories in the monograph was about how when the Hiroshima bombing happened, there was some ginkgo trees that they survived like an atomic bombing.
Wow.
That's how strong they are and how resilient, and they then became this symbol of survival for the Japanese. We'll go and see these ginkgo trees today, the ones that sprouted.
Wow.
Survived. Yeah, so it's got some great stories about it, ginkgo. If you read the monograph, I've tried to put a few of them in there. It appeals to the historic soul. It contains a lot of secrets, this tree. I mean, we should, as you get older, it's definitely a great herb for elderly.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it's got a 900-year-old story to tell, really, hasn't it? So, and then Hiroshima as well. So that's really impressive.
Yeah,
that it's been around for just so long and is the Yoda of plants.
Yes. When 900 years old you reach, look as good you will not. That is the tree. It's a very beautiful tree. Yes. And we're lucky that we can take some of its wisdom in our herbal medicine.
Yeah. So now, is there anything I've missed?
This one's got a lot of information, but I mean, as far as what I wrote about in the highlight, that's pretty much. Yeah. There's a lot of information in the monograph if you want to read further.
So you just need to be a member. You need to join the Herbal Extract Company and as a practitioner, and then you'll have access to all of those monographs. So, well, thank you very much for coming back to talk to us again, Christine. It's been lovely to see you. And I look forward to our next chat. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.